The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to St. John.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Near the cross of Jesus stood his mother and his mother's sister, Mary, the wife of Clopas, and Mary of Magdala. Seeing his mother and the disciple he loved standing near her, Jesus said to his mother, "Woman, this is your son." Then to the disciple he said, "This is your mother." And from that moment, the disciple made a place for her in his home. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
My dear friends, today we shall reflect on the sixth sorrow of Mary. And I'm sure that as we look at the sixth sorrow of Mary, when she received the body of her only son from the cross, I'm sure many of us could identify ourselves with the Blessed Mother. Every life has its share of pain, struggle, and hard times. Mary's life was no different. The greatest hurt of Mary's life is artistically expressed in Michelangelo's marble masterpiece, the Pietà, from the Latin word meaning loyalty and devotion. We see the poignant image of a mother holding the torn and ravaged body of her executed son. Both Mary's strength and immense love are portrayed through the face and posture that Michelangelo gives to her. In the Pietà, Mary has large, broad shoulders and a wide, generous lap on which the dead body of a son rests. The Pietà is a powerful reminder of how much strength and love can have and how much pain it can evoke. Mary gathered the dead body of Jesus into her loving arms, embracing him as one embraces a beloved who has been through tremendous agony. She not only drew his dead body to herself, but she drew a lifetime of love and all that he had suffered to her heart. His pain was inside of her. there was an immense oneness between the mother who sat there and the crucified Son whose body lay on her lap. My dear friends, I'm sure all of us would have seen the Pietà. We are so fortunate in the Church of St. Francis of Assisi that we have a station of the cross that have the Pietà. The 13th station. And each time when I look at the Pietà, I see the immense pain, the immense love of the Blessed Mother. It evokes lots of pain, lots of suffering, and tremendous grief. As I was preparing today's sermon on Mary receiving the dead body of her son, I was up at the Calvary Hill and trying to picture how Mary, or what was Mary's experience when they brought down a son's body and brought her son's body to her. My dear friends, Mary received Jesus as one who compassionately receives. Mary held him as one who holds the horror of human tragedy and dreadful grief. She embraced him as one who embraces the deepest love they have ever known. Mary receiving the dead body of a son becomes a metaphor for any one of us, man or woman, when we open the arms of our love to receive suffering and death into our lives. By that generous gesture, we become living Pietàs. I see Mary as a symbol for my own life, believing that I too am meant to receive others in their deep distress, in their deep pain. The son whom Mary holds is a symbol of the suffering people in my life who need someone to be with them when they are vulnerable, troubled, and overwhelmed with the intensity of life's painful unfolding. The Pietà is a strong image of compassion. The figure of this sorrowful mother reflects all those who weep and grieve as they hold their great loss and pain close to their heart in a long embracing farewell. When I gaze upon the Pietà, I see not just Mary, but every person who has ever embraced and held the pain of another in the arms of their care. In Mary, I see each of us gathering to our hearts the worry and the worn ones of the world. Never have we needed this inspiration more. My dear friends, our world is filled with pain and distress. everywhere there are hurting people, hurting ones, longing to be received with this kind of loving embrace. I remember this morning as I was reflecting this sermon, I received a call from a mother who was taking her son to one of the government hospitals. And she was so afraid to take her young son because of the pandemic and the consequences of going to hospitals. And she was so worried. Not worried for her, but worried for her son who's not well. That every now and then he has to go to the hospital to get treatment. And he has been in and out in the hospitals for some time. I understand what the mother went through, the kind of agony, the kind of pain, the kind of suffering. We can understand the pietà as a posture of our heart. When we are caught in the grips of goodbye, or when we are tending to others who are suffering grievously. The experience of the pietà is everywhere in our world. It's everywhere. Mary receiving the dead body of a son is every parent of any age who has suffered the loss of a child. Mary holding the crucified Jesus is every sorrowing person who embraces a loved one and bids a final farewell. Mary is everyone filled with anguish and sorrow who has held what has died in their life and wondered why it happened. My dear friends, the key word of the sixth sorrow of Mary is receive. And that is the key word. The key word for the sixth sorrow of Mary is receive, meaning to take back. To take back. When Mary received the dead body of Jesus in her arms, she was taking back. Receiving Jesus in his totality, with all the accompanying pain that came with holding his battered body, his tortured body. In that moment, Mary had come full circle with Jesus, receiving in death the bruised and the beaten body of her son. She had birthed as a fresh, healthy child some 33 years earlier. Everything she had known and cherished about the son, all the love they had shared, the trials and tribulations they had experienced, each hope and dream she had for him, all this Mary held on a sorrowing lap. It's not easy. It's never easy. When you hold someone whom you treasure so much and recall back what you have gone through with this person, the love, the affection, the trials, the tribulations. It's not easy. It's never easy for the Blessed Mother. All that came back to her 33 years earlier when they shared the life together. All that came back to her when she took the son's body and put her on her lap, reminding that when he was a baby, when he was a child, that she would have done that. And now, 33 years later, she's holding her son. And all the memories comes back. And she could even recall what the prophet Simeon prophesied. The first sorrow of Mary, the prophecy of Simeon, the old man who prophesied when Joseph and Mary entered into the temple. He prophesied something that was very, very painful, which no one likes to hear, a startling kind of news, a startling kind of announcement. And Mary and Joseph was not prepared to hear that. But now, as she holds on her son's dead body, she remembered what Simeon prophesied. It's not easy, my dear friends. If you think your pain and sorrow is great, just look at the Blessed Mother. The wounded Christ in Mary's lap is also in the lap of our lives. The Jesus of the Pietà is each suffering person who enters our life. We may be receiving the dead body of someone we love, or we may be receiving a non-physical death, in bracket, a great loss that causes us or someone else immense grief. Being a living Pietà means that there are moments in life when we need to hold what has died, cherish what has been, and accept the reality of the pain that comes with this loss. When we receive hurting ones, we gather them to our heart as Mary did, and embrace them as a wounded Christ. We cradle them with care and reverence in the lap of our compassion. A lap is that part of us that we naturally have when we sit down. It allows us the ability to hold things. A lap is a place of comfort where little ones are cradled, where children feel sheltered and protected. It is while sleeping on the lap of the mother that the child is nurtured, and often where children are rocked to sleep. I'm sure we all recall back our own experiences. When we were resting on our mother's lap. It's so comforting. So comforting. It is a kind of nurturing, a kind of a bonding that we have with our mothers. Mary's lap was spacious. We too need space. Spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical. In order to receive another's pain, to give our attention to it and embrace it. Sometimes suffering is just forced into our lap. We do not expect or want that experience of receiving it. We would not choose to have it plopped into our lap. But there it is. whether we desire it or not. We may feel forced into being a living pieta by a life situation that cannot be avoided. Because sometimes we do not want to go there. Especially, we find it difficult to have someone to come to us and to pour out his pain and struggles and his suffering to us because we find it difficult to handle. We do want to go there. It's too much to hold. It's too much to caress. But the truth is, my dear friends, when we hold suffering ones in the lap of our compassion, we put our own agenda aside and receives them as they are. We let go of what we want to have happen and what we think should happen. We put aside our judgments of them and allow them to be with us as they are. We do not cast aside our thoughts and feelings, but we do not allow these thoughts and feelings to dominate or control how we are with these hurting ones. My dear friends, our lap or inner space can get full, tight, or too guarded. It can develop walls around it. We can become too busy to call lonely parents. Parents who are lonely. We are too busy. We are afraid to show a little compassion to our friends who are sick, or ready to listen to the hurt of a child. We can become too self-oriented to notice the distress of another, or to put aside our joy for the sake of someone else. Sometimes we are afraid to open up our lap for others to come because it evokes pain, discomfort. It evokes some forms of sacrifices. And sometimes we do not want to go there because we are too afraid of the pain that we may experience. And that includes in our own families. In our own families. How many families have communication breakdown? How many family members has no relationship with one another? How many family members are suing one another in the court? We have no time to open our laps or the space for them to come because we are self-oriented. My dear friends, when we look at Mary, the sixth sorrow of her, we see that how difficult it was for her that she wanted to hold her son for a very last time. It would have been excruciating for Mary to cradle the maimed and battered body of Jesus on her lap. Yet, she must also have yearned to hold him, to treasure the feel of his limbs, the closeness of his touch, the shape of his face. To do so meant that she also had to hold his death, to endure seeing closely the beating and the battering that had destroyed his body, his flesh. The body Mary held in her lap was that of a crucified criminal with all his cruel markings. It's never easy. To see the markings, the wounds, the battered body. My dear friends, it hurts to enter into the pieta of our lives. It is not easy to receive suffering into our arms. It can be a heavy burden, just as the body of Jesus resting in Mary's lap was heavy and pain and unbearable. Suffering can crush us, press us down, weigh heavily on our minds and hearts. The suffering of others that we carry can be so large that we wonder if we can handle it. No one in the right mind would want more pain. No one in their right mind would want more pain. But no one in their right heart would refuse if it is meant encouraging, strengthening, and consoling another human being who is in pain. When Mary held the body of Jesus, she must have been horrified to see the sores, the gaps, the ugliness of his body. Horrified to see the image of a son. It has been said of the crucified Jesus that he was like someone from whom others hide their faces. In Isaiah chapter 53, verse 3, you would not want to look at the face. Imagining how the Blessed Mother would have gone through the pain and the suffering. My dear friends, compassion requires that we allow the lap of our life to hold the suffering of others. We can do this only if we act from a center of love, deep within ourselves. The pieta is an intensely vivid reminder of how much strength this love has and how much power this love gives to do what needs to be done. And today we are called to reflect on that, the sixth sorrow of Mary. And I remember that I would like to conclude today's reflection with a real story of Mary holding us in our suffering. When I was giving a retreat, a woman shared a beautiful story about Mary. This woman had painful back surgery. And after the surgery, she did not sleep for 12 days because she was in terrible pain, terrible agony. She said it was the first time she ever understood why someone want to take their own life. At the end of the 12th day, she said to Mary, "Look, you are supposed to be my mother. You'll have to hold me and take care of me because I just can't endure this any longer." And then she adjusted her pillows under her feet and slept for 10 hours without waking. She said that she was conscious of a pain while she slept, but it was tolerable pain and did not keep her from sleeping. It was the image of Mary's maternal love embracing her that gave her the ability to relax enough in order to rest in her sleep. My dear friends, whatever pain and whatever suffering that we all are going through at this moment, let us remember that we have a blessed mother who has gone through intense pain, suffering. And we can always go to her, knowing that she will be with us in our spiritual journey, that we can pour out our pain and our suffering to her, and knowing that she will help us to embrace whatever pain and suffering that we go through, because she herself went through that pain and the suffering and all the mental agony that took place in her life. So today, as we celebrate this feast of Our Lady of Sorrows, a very important feast, especially during this time of pandemic, it's good that we continually build a strong, close devotion to our Blessed Mother. Let us not forget that. And she knows what we all are going through, and she will be there for us, to embrace us and to tell us that I am with you. So let us pray and let us ask our Blessed Mother to guide us in our spiritual journey.